Hello there, I'm Ant the AI Old Timer, and a while back one of my new subscribers asked about my story, particularly how I retired at age 28. So I thought, yeah, I've been posting long enough, maybe it's time to share my story, let you get to know a little bit more about who I am, where I came from, what made me me. So if you're ready, let's relax our tie, get yourself a nice drink, and I'll crack on with my story. Okay, well, let's get rid of that. For starters, I haven't had to wear one of those for ages. Right, well, I'll try and make this as quick as possible, because I know some people's life stories can just ramble on and on and on. But I want to give you a little bit of background and just to set the stage for where I came from. Pretty ordinary family. My dad worked, he was in finance and banking. My mum was a stay-at-home mum, but she ran a show kennels and always had a little side hustle. She had a catering company, she sold dog food and dog supplies and things like that. A little bit too kind-hearted, so she never really did it for profit, and got abused a lot by people, got taken advantage of. Speaking of abuse, I will say, like an awful lot of entrepreneurs and successful business owners, I was abused as a child, and took me a long time to get over that. A lot of self-therapy and therapy, but it does help set your head straight. Over all of that now, yeah, I mean, you never totally get over it, but yeah, well, they say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So I don't know whether that had anything to do with me having a really strong drive and ambition. Because of it, I was actually very, very shy as a child, the youngest of 6 children. So yeah, bit of a boring school life, although one of my primary school teachers did have me earmarked as an actor. She kept saying, one day I'll see your name up in lights in the West End, and that sort of became a bit of an ambition of mine to be an actor, which I have subsequently done. More of that later. Yeah, I got a taste for business when my brother, who'd started a car cleaning round to raise money for a scouts holiday he wanted to go on. And my parents were quite good like that, that if there was anything big that we wanted, rather than just give it to us, we had to earn it. We had to raise our own money, and they always said they'd meet us halfway. And so he raised enough money for his holiday, and then got really bored with having to go every weekend and clean people's cars. So he dragged me along, and little by little he didn't bother turning up, and eventually it was just me. So in my early teens I had a little car cleaning round, which was doing really, really well. I was making quite a bit of money on the weekends. Hated it when it rained, and one thing I noticed was the business owners on the car cleaning round, they paid more to have their cars cleaned, and they didn't really care. The people that had houses, the residential people, they always sort of quibbled like, oh gosh, that's expensive. Yeah, so I befriended the business owners. That gave me a little bit of an insight into business, and some of them obviously wanted their car to look nice, so they wanted them waxed, so I upsold them on that. Then I went into engine cleaning, and in fact by the time I was 18, because I totally flunked my A-levels, that's like my high school qualifications for anyone out there in America and anywhere where they don't have A-levels and O-levels. So my chances of going to university were dashed, and what I really wanted to do, because I'd saved up a lot of money, I had gosh, well into the 5 figures by that time. It sounds really nerdy. That was actually one of my hobbies, was saving money, and I loved it when I saw my bank account go from £999 to £1,000, and that was when I was in my early teens. And Dad and I also dabbled in the stock market, so I got good at picking stocks and reading prospectuses and things like that, sort of grooming me to go into banking, but then warned me against it because it was all changing. I often wonder what would have happened if I'd gone into banking. I would probably have been part of the Lehman Brothers or something like that with that fiasco, because I probably would have come up with some kind of creative idea to make money for the corporate banking side of things. But anyway, yes, what I wanted to do was buy a little van, put a big water tank in there and a generator, and go around all of the company car parks and do a mobile car valeting service. I subsequently found out that someone later did that in the early 90s. This is all in the early 80s, by the way, put it into date context. Someone actually franchised that business and made about £100 million from it. So I was good at coming up with ideas, and unfortunately my parents were very security focused, or very risk averse, shall we say. So they weren't really into people being entrepreneurs, although they subsequently learned that from many of my ventures that was actually the right thing to do, and that getting a job and keeping your head down and all of that lot really isn't the way to get rich and wealthy. I lost my train of thought there for a minute. So I didn't do that, but instead my dad got me a placement at a firm out in Germany. So I went and lived and worked in Germany for a year, which was quite a daunting challenge, because nobody in the area really spoke English, so I was sort of thrown in at the deep end and forced to learn German. It did allow me to become very fluent in German, and ended up running a department at age 18 while I was there, so that kind of showed what sort of business acumen I had. And while I was there, it allowed me to do two things. I'd never really thought about going into business or studying business or anything like that. I was more in a creative vein, even though I had an entrepreneurial spirit. But because it was quite a lonely experience, it gave me a lot of time to think. So that's where I really started to tackle my early childhood abuse, and started doing a lot of thinking and soul searching, and started reaching out for help on that, and that sort of led me down the path of self-development. Got a lot of self-help books, Think and Grow Rich, Richest Man in Babylon, Magic of Thinking Big, all those kind of things. Some books by Tony Robbins, Notes from a Friend, way too many to mention. But if you are thinking of going into any kind of business or entrepreneurial project, I really do advise you to follow the adage that leaders are readers, and read as many books on success. Read people's autobiographies and biographies. Richard Branson's one is an exceptional book to study. So while I was there, I decided I'd go to business school, get a degree. My parents were very heavy onto education. Retrospectively, I should have just started my first business and jumped right in. I'd have learned an awful lot more, and the degree I took was a bit of a jolly for 4 years. I studied international marketing with German and Italian, which obviously took me back out to Germany. Germany will play a big role in things, as you'll find out. My first job out of university was very local to where I was, and I got it. It paid quite well. It allowed me to buy my first flat, or at least get a mortgage on the first flat. Which I wish I'd had the money. I put quite a hefty deposit down on it, and haggled really well. It was lucky it was a buyer's market. This will make some of you very envious. was a very, very nice modern flat, and it was up for £49,000, and I haggled them right the way down to 33,000, and my mortgage was about half of that, and that was about 2/3 of my salary at that time. So things have changed, you know, inflation and quantitative easing has really kicked in. I feel sorry for youngsters today, they can barely get on the housing ladder, but I was very, very lucky. That was a German company based on the outskirts of London, and I did really well there. I took on as much work as I could, and surplus workloads, so much so that I then created a new job function, and was set to get a nice hefty pay rise, but being a little bit boisterous and outspoken at the sales convention, I got discipline, and everyone else got a pay rise and I didn't. So I started looking around for another job, which came quite easily. I saw one advertised in the paper. There's pre the internet, everything, you had to plough through the papers, and unbeknownst to them, they'd actually put a phone number and the address in the advert, and it had only just come out, and early one morning about 7 o'clock I phoned the number, and I figured anyone that's anybody, this is the joy of plugging into personal development, you learn all these little tidbits. I phoned up and I thought anyone that's anyone, all the important people are going to be in there really, really early, and I was absolutely right. The chairman and owner of the company answered the phone, and I said, I don't know if you're hiring. Obviously I did from the advert. I said, but I'm a recent graduate, these are my skills, blah, 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 blah. And he went, oh, do you know what? Can you come in today? I said, yeah, I can probably be there in an hour. So I phoned up my job and said, oh, sorry, I'm really sick. And scuttled down to meet the chairman. 4 hours later, and a very nice lunch, he'd offered me the job of international marketing director, and said that I would be running all of the German speaking offices as and when they opened, or in fact it would be my job to open them. So and that was a computer company. It was a value-added reseller for IBM, and so I had two roles. It was an enormous jump in salary, and also huge earning potential. Did that for about 2 years, and I just need to wet my whistle then. Yeah, and I did extremely well from that, because I was based in Germany, so my earnings were pretty much tax-free. That's the way I sort of wangled it anyway, and because I've been paid from the UK. Yeah, I rented my flat out, and with the extra money that allowed me to pay off my flat outright, which was a very nice situation to be in. And yeah, unfortunately, the chairman didn't keep up to his promise, because I'd obviously been promoted way out of my depth. He said, "Don't worry about it." He said, "I'll be out on a regular basis. I will train you up with everything that you need to know." And I think in the 2 years that I was running the business, I think he came out 3 times, so I was pretty much thrown in at the deep end. And gosh, just the memory is bringing the heartburn back. I was actually making myself very, very sick. I didn't realise how stressed I was, because I just threw more and more of myself into it. Didn't really know that many people out there, so all I did was just throw myself into work. I just built the company and worked and worked and worked and worked and worked. My diet was sort of very much lacking. I was sort of subsisting on chewing gum and coffee, which anyone will tell you isn't a good way to live. And he noticed this, and he sort of said, I think you're making yourself sick. I've found a replacement. I'm pulling you back to the UK. So that really let me see that the grass wasn't greener on the other side. As someone said recently, the only reason the grass is greener is because it's been fertilised with a lot of bullshit. Yeah, so coming back to the UK was a bit of an anticlimax, having run 3 different offices in a foreign language and been the kingpin, as it were. It was all a little bit boring being back in the UK, so I resigned from that and did some charity work. While I sort of fixed my head and thought about what to do next. And that's when I was about 28. And yeah, I sort of looked at my finances and I thought, do you know what? I have enough money. I don't have a mortgage, and if I can almost kill myself building someone else's dream, what can I do building my own dream and putting all of my energies into that? And that's what I mean by retired, because a lot of people think of the traditional retirement of working a job or working the rat race for 40 odd years, and put your money into your pension and build up your ISA and all of that lot, and age 65 retire, and then decide what you want to do with what's left of your life. Well, I never wanted to do that. I always had in my mind that I would retire at 55. My birthday's coming up at the end of this month, so I'm actually way ahead of schedule. And yeah, so that's when I really retired into full-time living and decided that I would do what I wanted to do and make money doing it. I thought, well, I've always wanted to act and write, and so that's what I threw myself into. I started writing lots of articles. I had a lot of poetry already written, and had a lot of poetry published. I then got into a deputy editorship, and that was my first writing mentor, a chap called Morgan Kenny, a lovely retired writer that had been very, very successful writing books out in Canada. And yeah, and I think I'll leave the story there for the time being. Yeah, I probably didn't answer your question, but put some comments down below if you've got anything else you'd like to know, and I'll see what I can do. All right, bye-bye.